Fibromyalgia, the pain is in the brain, Part 1. It has been a long and interesting journey, beginning with my book in which I laid the foundation about why women are more prone to developing or at least reporting FMS. And my conclusion that it is actually caused by an over-aroused nervous system. However, while this was the first step, and the primary one, more has been revealed to me, and I am very excited over the unlimited hope there could be for us all. I still don't have all the answers, and it may be that I am presenting information that is not quite accurate. But it has been a steep learning curve and requires much unlearning, which is said to be more difficult than learning. It all began with my physiotherapist, Matheson, who brought me to a path that I had never traveled down before, that is, to explore the relationship between pain and the brain. Rather than looking simply at fibromyalgia as the result of a hyper-aroused nervous system. I am not talking cure, but at least some cause for not feeling completely hopeless. Let me begin with a very brief discussion about the nervous system and the brain. Although not an easy task, I believe it is really possible to train the pain away from our brain. Maybe not forever, but certainly more often than we do now. Aha! I have already given away the conclusion without explaining how I reached it. Here we go now. There are approximately 100 billion nerve cells in the brain, which is amazing considering that it weighs only about 3 pounds. The complexity of this is mind-boggling. Pun intended. The brain is a large network of interconnected neurons and the communication that takes place between them. A synapse is a connection between two neurons. Important information is filtered through to consciousness, and it may amplify the signal to hyper-awareness, and hyperalgesia can develop. This is a heightened awareness of pain, which afflicts those of us with fibromyalgia. The spinal cord and the brain make up the central nervous system. The brain takes messages to the peripheral nervous system, which controls the limbs and organs of the body. Within this system is the autonomic nervous system, which affects the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Now here are the relationships between fibromyalgia and these two last systems in particular. The sympathetic system is the fight or flight warning, which secretes too much adrenaline and cortisol, found in the adrenal glands on top of the kidneys. In those of us with fibromyalgia, that is, the brain keeps repeatedly warning this system to be fearful. Our nervous systems become hyper-aroused and freezing occurs, which is another aspect of the fight or flight concept. The brain does not allow the parasympathetic system to do its proper job of rest and relaxation and then work to maintain a balance between the two systems. But we can retrain our brain to overcome this chronic hyperarousal. That is the wonderful news that is exciting to neuroscientists and psychoneurologists who have uncovered the plasticity of the brain. New emotions can be learned, which is not any different than learning a skill like playing chess or tennis. It requires time and discipline, but with practice, the brain is built to allow us to train for positive emotions, rather than the painful ones that plague sufferers of fibromyalgia. Here is a conundrum: what, in fact, is the difference between the brain and the mind? Are they the same thing? As usual, I ask more questions than I answer, but this one feels like it is important, and I can't really provide the answers. Nick says that the mind emerges as the function of the physical structures. But, in fact, it might even be plausible to suggest that there isn't even a mind, since it cannot be seen, and all that there may be is only a brain. From the perspectives I have read, the mind is our experiences and the ability to become aware of such things as our surroundings. It is our consciousness and our thoughts. Within this view, the mind comes after the brain. It embraces the higher functions of the brain, such as our personality, reason, memory, and emotions. So how about us finding ways to circumvent the mind and focus on the brain itself before it gives those messages of pain, or in fact, to give different messages, to the mind? Or even more daringly, how about suggesting that the mind is non-existent and maybe we should be concentrating only on the brain, which does those functions that are said to be in the mind? The brain itself is a biological matter and can be found and touched. The mind cannot be seen by anyone, nor is it biological. It reminds me that when we hear about the body/mind connection or body/mind/spirit, what we are actually talking about is actually more concrete. Neither the mind nor the spirit can be seen or touched. I prefer instead body/brain/emotions. In this triad, only emotions cannot be seen or touched, but they can actually be measured in some way. The body and the brain are tangible. It is those biological aspects of pain that we hope to change so that the brain receives different messages than they have had, ones that bring about more hopeful and happier emotions. I recognize that there may be criticisms about letting go of the concept of a mind and instead focusing only on the brain. This will be so, particularly in the Buddhist tradition, which suggests that there is a distinct difference between the brain and the mind, and spirituality, which is another nebulous term within this context. Nonetheless, I believe there is a more concrete aspect to embrace in this search for the impact of pain on the mind.